Welcome back, everybody, to Alt Perspective. My name is Tim. I am joined, as always, by our pastoral
I'm awake
presence,
now.
Christy Russell.
Oh
It's
my
been a it's
God.
been a couple weeks. Um, yeah.
Hey, what'd you say, honey?
Well,
I
so
can't hear you.
so welcome back. On this episode, we're going to be covering the first two episodes of season 2 of The Chosen. We decided to break it down a couple episodes at a time, kind of like we did with The Promised Land, because we felt like we were kind of condensing and not able to go deep on the first season. So we're going to now be breaking down 2 episodes at a time, starting with the first 2 episodes of season 2. All that being said, if you like this type of content, be sure to like, subscribe, comment, do all the things to help feed the algorithm. We're growing at a pretty decent clip. We are now above 100 subscribers. I looked today, we were at 117, I think.
Oh, nice.
So we're doing pretty good. We hit a little milestone there, 100 subs. That's nothing to shy away from because I have started many YouTube channels and it is not easy to grow a channel. So we've been grinding and we've been driving some engagement, so it's good. So thanks for all the love and support. Continue to do that. That being said, we are now changing everything about the channel. I'm kidding. This show, though, is going to be changing slightly. It's now going to be Mom and I every 2 weeks doing what we do, breaking down a pop culture subject, whether it's a movie, show, whatever. And then during the gap weeks, it's going to be Isaac and I. Isaac from the Adam Perspective. If you want to get familiar with him, go check out that show if you are not familiar with it. It's going to be Isaac and I sitting with a guest, and we're going to have a consistent third chair every other week. So, yeah, so that's what the formula is going to be for Alt Perspective moving forward. I don't think it's changing like the content of the show. I feel like that's what it was always meant to be. We've always talked about having guests and stuff, right, Mom? So, and with our team growing and Isaac becoming such a personality on our channel, I think it's fitting to
Your
have him
mom's
step
your
in.
mom's your mom's decrepit and old.
And yeah, we're we're doing this for good reason. Mom is struggling a little bit with her circumstance, so we're trying to lighten her load a little bit. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and we'll go back to the normal. And we'll just figure it out. But we thought we'd try something new, especially with the growth of the channel. We thought we'd try a few new things. You're going to be seeing more experimental videos pop up as well. One of those dropping actually tomorrow, from the time this goes up. So, yeah, I hope you enjoy the new content. And if you don't want Alt to change at all, that's fine. Just let us know in the comments. That's what the comment section is for. All the housekeeping out of the way, let's jump into episode 1 and 2 of the second season of The Chosen Mom. My high level thoughts right off the jump. I think that this is where the show really takes off. First season's very good. It's very good television. But I think this is where the show really takes off. They've clearly gotten a name for themselves on some level. A little bit more budget. And the cast grows. You get some more of the apostles. Get a little bit more into the weeds. And I think it's really good. So these first 2 episodes in particular, I think, are some of the best episodes actually in the entire show thus far. I think they're very good episodes. The episode 2 in particular being one of my favorite episodes of the whole show thus far. So we'll dive more into that in detail. That's the reason we're doing this 2 episodes at a time. But Mom, your high level thoughts on these first 2 episodes
You know
of
what?
season 2.
We're gonna play this one different, and we're just gonna start talking about it.
Okay.
And the reason being is because, like I said, I watched this again. I reviewed it again, watched it again last week, And off the top of my brain, I can't say that I'm vividly remembering everything. I need you to like stir the pot. I need you to trigger my brain
Oh,
into action.
okay. We can do that. Sorry, I was messing with the audio there, so if you hear the audio changing a little bit here and there, I
Yeah.
apologize.
So I'll just kind
Um,
of
so you
I'll
want to
just
riff
kind of
off me, is what you're saying?
yes, I would
Okay.
like to riff off you.
Okay, that's fine. Well, so the first two episodes of the season, Mom, just a quick reminder. We'll actually just take it episode by episode. So episode 1 of season 2, it kicks off. It's titled Thunder, and it mainly focuses on a story arc with the which we see play out in the Bible actually, not to this level of detail, but we see it's basically how uh, Big James and John get their nicknames,
Sons of Thunder.
Sons of
Yes.
Thunder. So the episode actually, I like the way the episode kicks off, Mom, which I think we need to talk about. This is one of the first of a couple that we've had thus far in the show. Flash forwards to post resurrection. Actually,
Mm.
it's implied that a few years have passed. All of the apostles are actually kind of grayed.
Yeah.
And we don't really get a full picture of what's going on here. It seems like one of the other apostles is like interviewing all of the apostles, and it's not it's we don't know who it is until later in the scene, but it turns out to be John. He's writing his gospel, and they're actually all gathered together because they're mourning the death of Big James, his brother, which is a really sad detail because
Yeah.
Mary, Mother Mary, asks him, like, why are you doing this now? And he says, I don't know when we'll be together next. And she's like, no, but you should be mourning James. Like,
Yeah.
and so it's actually got a really sad undertone because they're all there mourning. Um, and yeah, it really interesting scene. They the way they write how James came up, or how John came up with the opening of his gospel.
Yeah.
The even going as far as to like the disclaimer of his gospel,
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
if they had like they imply that, well, what if Jesus' mom came up with
Yeah.
like, you could write down everything that he did and the world couldn't contain it. I
Yeah.
thought that was a really cool little detail. And then
Yeah.
he's like, oh, a disclaimer, I'm going to write that down. That's good.
Mhm.
And they're
Yeah,
discussing
they
back.
did a really good job with
Yeah.
just the conversation was very good and
Yeah. It flowed really good.
mhm.
It shows John and Mary's relationship at this point too. Like, for those of you who know your gospels, Jesus like literally tells John like, son, behold your mother, mother, behold your son. And like, he kind of almost entrusts Mary to John
Yeah.
in his
Yeah.
dying breaths. And he's treating her like his mom. And I think it's a really
Yeah.
nice touch throughout the whole scene. What did you think of this opening scene, Mom, where he's kind of interviewing the apostles? I like how Simon Peter is still calling John the Baptist creepy John in this scene too, because
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
it's
there was
it's
some humor
yeah,
in
it's a
there.
really funny bit where
Mhm.
Andrew's recalling when he met Jesus for the first time, and or when he saw Jesus for the first time, because I don't think you really met him yet, but and he says, John turns to him and says, behold, and then Peter cuts in and he says, I have eaten a new bug.
Yeah, it was funny.
I thought that was really good little humor. But what did you think of this opening scene, Mom? Did you enjoy it?
I did enjoy it. I kind of liked the that feel of the post
Yeah.
resurrection, crucifixion, resurrection. And you see them aging, of course, in this. And I think they did a fairly good job at aging them.
Yeah.
Um,
It was subtle.
it was
I
realistic. It was subtle.
appreciated the subtlety of it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was a great scene. I loved Mary in this as well. I loved the lines that she gave, that she had a that her words were important to John,
Yeah.
and which would be so because he considered and was taking care of her as mother,
Yeah.
and she was speaking into his life as his mom. So it makes a lot of sense to me. I think it brought some fluency. It made it fluent or
Yeah.
fluid. I don't know what I'm looking for there, but it just had a nice flow to it.
They did a good job
And
at like taking the events that we know from scripture and then
hmm
elaborating on where it could have gone, what that relationship could have looked like, because we don't really understand, we don't really see what John, that mother son relationship between John and Mary looks like post Jesus's death and resurrection.
yeah, because it really doesn't
It
talk about it
doesn't it
much.
doesn't talk about it. Not that there's necessarily a need to talk about it, because it's not, it doesn't lend to the validity of our faith at all.
Right.
That's a personal experience. So elaborating on and fictionalizing, coming up with this fictional idea of what this could have looked like, I think is a really cool touch. And I don't think they did anything offensive or weird or out of place. It felt very natural
Very
the way
natural,
they
very
took it.
likely. I mean, it very easily could have happened. It may have happened. We don't know.
Hmm.
I thought they didn't like. I didn't think they took like over an overabundance of liberty. I think they just explored the possibilities.
Yeah.
Hmm
Yeah, I think this is a really cool scene, and like I said, just the undertone of Big James's death, who also at this point in the show is recast. I don't know if you noticed, but in season 1, Big James wasn't really prominent, and like they actually went through 2 actors through the course of season 1 for him as well.
because he wasn't that prominent, so I really
Yeah.
didn't notice. I did notice there was a change in character in this
Yeah, they
this
address it right at the
season.
beginning. There's a little card at the beginning, a little text card that says Big James will now be played by Abe, whatever his last name is. I
Yeah.
apologize for forgetting, but um, yeah, but it made me like reanalyze when I knew, because they make a big deal about him being cast as like officially cast now. I'm like, who played him in season 1? And so I'm looking. I analyzed season 1 a little bit deeper, and what I
hmm
noticed is in season 1 the actor changes mid-season.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's really funny.
See,
So
I
he's
didn't even
actually
notice that
been
he wasn't very
he
prominent.
hasn't
So
been recast once. He's been recast twice actually over the course of
interesting.
the show, which I think is intriguing. Um, it's almost like on the day uh of episode 1, they were just like, just get someone to stand in for him. We just won't give him any lines, or something like that. But they did give him lines. They gave him lines in the first episode, so I think it's
Yeah.
funny that. But yeah, minor details. I don't think it affects the weight or the validity of the show. I think it,
No.
because the new guy who comes in, he comes,
Subtle enough.
yeah, it's subtle enough. He comes in and makes the role his own. He brings character and life to the, like, he makes him more prominent. So I think it works really well.
Mm.
Um, so, and then also in this intro sequence, we see Nathaniel for the first time as well. But you
Yes.
don't know it's Nathaniel because you had never seen him before this point. So I think it's funny that they just kind of slip him into this intro sequence
It's like,
here.
oh, here,
It's like, oh,
here's Nathaniel,
here's one you haven't met yet.
in whom
Like,
there is no,
yeah,
there's nothing,
yeah. They don't say his
no
name.
guile.
They don't even
Hmm
say his name or anything. It's just like, here's an apostle you haven't met yet, and it's like, "Psh, who is this?" And we find out later. Actually, we don't even find out till episode 2 that it's Nathaniel. I think it's really cool how they kind of pace the show out and they kind of like throw little nuggets in there. Um,
Yeah, because they kind of led up to the
yeah,
reveal of who it was.
yeah. So yeah, intro sequence of episode 1 I think is really good. It's a really interesting creative thing that they chose to do to kick off this second season. Which also is kind of ballsy, for lack of a better term, I think, because like it's still a relatively new show. The first season, I'd imagine the second season, by the time the second season rolls around, like not a lot of people are talking about The Chosen yet. It's like one of the biggest shows in the world now. Like they were advertising
Yeah.
Times Square for season 5 and
They were
stuff,
still growing their
but they were still
audience.
growing their audience at this point. So to take such strong creative liberties right at the beginning of your second season, I think is a, I mean, I think it's a flex. I think it's a strong move
Yeah.
to come out the gate with. Um, we then hard cut to the scene of John and Big James. They refer to him as Big James because they differentiate Big James and Little James. Um,
Yep.
and Little James has a disability, which we'll get more into his character later as well. But because there's two Jameses, they had to find a way to differentiate them. So they call him Big James. We cut to Big James and John plowing a field and sowing seed. Um, and at this point in the plot, they are now in Samaria. They're doing some evangelistic work there. They're doing Jesus's bidding there. But Jesus sends the brothers out to a random place to plow a field. And they're like, I like this dynamic. It builds up their
Oh
dynamic
yeah.
as brothers. I think it's super funny dialogue. They're
Why do you
theorizing.
think he chose
Why
us?
do you think he chose us to do this?
Because we're the best.
Oh, and of course they settle on we're the best. We're his favorite. And then John takes it from we're his favorite to why do you think I'm his favorite?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he very quickly he very quickly takes the title of being the favorite, which I think is very funny.
And I think that's a play off because of how he refers to himself,
Yeah, how he refers to himself
you know,
in his gospel
in
constantly.
his gospel.
I think it's funny because like I've seen it pointed out recently, little side tangent, that like I've seen like shorts and stuff of it pointed out like John, like when he's writing his gospel, like all of the other gospel authors will be like, oh, one of the apostles cut off the Roman guard's ear, and then John will be like, it was Peter. And then like the other ones will be like, oh, like one of the other apostles like were rushing to the tomb and they pulled out ahead of Peter, and then John's
It was
gospel will be like, it
John.
was me. I did
It
it.
was me.
I beat him. Like it's so funny like seeing, so like you can see why the show takes those liberties of like
Hmm.
of planting this like competitive nature between, especially between like Andrew and Peter and the Sons of Thunder. Like you see that competitive nature between them constantly, and they
Yeah.
kind of build up like that they might have been, they imply that they were like childhood friends and stuff in the show. And so I think it's like really cool creative liberties that they've taken just based off the way that John writes his own gospel. I think
Yeah.
it's very interesting.
Well, I think, talking about that, and I guess we're not on here to discuss that, but I do believe part of the reason John refers to himself as the one whom Jesus loves or loved um, is because he understood it. He grasped it. He accepted it.
Mm,
And I think the other disciples probably struggled more with the acceptance of that love and that grace and those things. And I think John just got it, maybe because of his closeness to Jesus, maybe because he was more vulnerable. He laid his head on his bosom.
yeah.
He was younger. We believe, and
I think he
most
was the
scholars believe he was
I
younger.
think he was the youngest of the apostles. I think he was more like
Yeah,
14ish,
yeah, he
probably.
was very much younger. So he just had this childlike faith, I think, that probably went to a different depth or level than the other disciples.
Yeah.
And in that childlike faith, it also was almost seemed like a greater faith in a lot of ways
Mm,
because he is like, I'm the one he loves. It's not because the others weren't loved, it's because he really got it. I think he
yeah.
said it because he believed it, he understood it, he received it. And in being one that has um, come from learning how to receive Christ's unconditional love,
Mm,
I get it now. And for so many years, I felt ashamed. I felt unworthy. I felt, ugh, I'll never deserve. And I don't feel that way anymore. Yes, we're all undeserving. But you know what? I get it. I receive it. I love him because he loves me
yeah.
so unconditionally. And I think when you have that vulnerability, we have it's all the once you've accepted it, it's like, yeah, he loves me even
Yeah.
though I do stupid stuff.
I think
Even
we
though I'm imperfect, he loves me.
yeah.
And I'm the one he loves.
I think we
I want to
also
be like John.
I think we also see it in John's action too. I mean, not just
Hmm.
his words and how he receives it, but like we see it in his action in that um he wants to be seated. He wants him and his brother to be seated at Jesus's right and left side. He wants, and you see
I think that was a mom instigated thing.
that was a mom instigated thing. I think the show nailed that on the head too, because one of the gospels, not all of them, but it's weird because one of the gospels say that they asked, and then one of the other gospels says that the mother asked.
Gives
So
more
yeah,
details. Yeah.
so it could go either way, I guess, it depending on which. But
Well, and it's not like they're not congruent, the
yeah,
gospels, because it's just some of them have more detail than others,
well, and I think
and
it's
different details.
well, and it's also like you're getting the same four account. You're getting the same account from four different perspectives.
Perspective.
So it's just somebody saw the situation differently than somebody else, but they all say the same thing at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But that's not what I was even saying. I think that that desire to be so close to Christ and remain close to him, and then also the fact that John is the only apostle that followed him to the cross.
Hmm.
None of the other apostles, all the other ones scattered. John is the only one that followed him to the cross alongside the
Mary.
Mary and Mary. Mary. And so I think that John is I think that shows his deep understanding of
Love.
Christ's love
And
because of
understanding.
he acts it out too. He doesn't just say it. He acts it. Whereas you have Peter constantly running his mouth saying, "Oh, I'll never deny you, Lord. I'll go with you to the end. I'll go with you to the end." And then he's one of the first ones to dip as soon as
Yeah.
crap hits the fan. And then John, he never ran his mouth like that, but he did what Peter said he would do. So I think it's very interesting. But yeah, so we see, I think it's cool. This scene really builds the dynamic between the brothers, builds who they are, introduces this new actor as Big James. I think great choice. I like he really brought weight to the character. I think
Hmm.
he just has a presence on screen when he's there, and I think you needed that for somebody who is half of the Sons of Thunder, right? You needed somebody who just has
Yeah.
a weight. And then we catch up pretty quickly with the rest of the crew. They're at some sort of inn, it seems like, staying there. They've lost Jesus. He's gone. He has a habit of just disappearing. Turns out he's fixing a cart for a merchant, which pretty cool. I love how they just scatter little bits of him, like doing his carpentry, doing his work, his craftsmanship throughout the show. I think it's a subtle but important detail to remind us, like, oh no, he liked to work with his hands. He was a craftsman.
Yeah.
Because that speaks to the depth of his the God side of him, right? Because God is the ultimate craftsman. He meticulously crafted every part of our existence and planet and universe.
Hmm.
And so to show that reflected through Jesus himself, I think is such an important detail.
I think it was cool how Mary, too, when they were all looking and
Yeah.
all that. Um, I thought it was a couple things were cool that stood out. One of the things was someone said, "Oh, you've lost him. Is he lost?" And she said, "Oh, he's never really lost.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's never really lost.
Yeah,
We just don't know where he is, basically."
I think it's interesting. Yeah, this introduces us to Thomas and Rama more too, because
Hmm.
they catch up with the group, and you get introduced to Rama's dad too a little bit more, and his worry for his daughter. He's traveling with them to catch up with the group so that he can have some words with Jesus. And I think it's pretty funny how he's like ready to like tell him off, and then Jesus just takes control of the situation, and he's just like, yeah, I'm pretty tired. Let's put it off till morning. Let's sleep on it. Um, but yeah, I think the whole dynamic between the group in this entire episode is really interesting. Seeing all the different personalities come out and them all giving their opinions on how the situation should be handled. And then there's just the few of them that are like, I don't think it's our call. I don't think I don't think we really should have an opinion. We should probably just, follow because that's what he asked us to do. And
Hmm.
so I think that's really interesting. What did you think about this like kind of like scene at the inn when, Jesus is they lose him for a while. Ultimately he ends up coming back. They all end up meeting back at the inn, and Jesus gives them all he kind of gives them all tasks, but not really. Like they think he gave them tasks, but really
Yeah.
he just said, we're going to go have dinner at a friend's later.
Hmm.
And it's really funny because James and John like kind of are trying to take control and be like, he told us we're the leaders, like we're the ones, and everyone else is like, he never said that. Like, how did you interpret it that way? So what did you think about the dynamic? Because this is the first time we get to see the whole kind of apostle group, the disciple group, get to interact with each other without Jesus in the room and
Yeah.
on like a mass level, and see how things just fall apart without Jesus in the room. Because as
Yeah.
soon as he walks out of the room physically, they all seem to forget the mission, and it's just like, oh
Hmm.
no, like and they all want to go their own way about it. So what did you think about this? And
Well, with yeah,
I
it's
think it wrong. I
definitely
think it rings true personally.
yeah, and I think they still have no identity yet.
Yeah.
I mean, it's clear. It's clear they have no identity, especially apart from him. They've stepped into this new part of their life, new season of their lives, and we're seeing the dynamic, and they're all honestly. I mean, if you look at it, they're all basically getting to know each other, and they don't necessarily even. Some of them know each other from childhood, but not all of them.
Yeah.
So they're not necessarily liking each other, and so we're seeing some of that, and then we see poor Matthew in this just trying to navigate how to communicate on a regular, consistent basis
Yeah.
with people.
Yeah.
You know,
I think that's what's really interesting is the ones that are the most silent in the room during this scene are the ones that um have the most colorful pasts. Like Mary
mm,
Magdalene is just dead quiet this whole time basically. Um and we know her past in the show. We don't know her past for sure, but like in the show they went the prostitute route, and so
yeah,
like and her being obviously demonically possessed by a legion of demons. And I think that it's interesting that she's the most silent in the room while everybody else is arguing, because she's been, to me it's a reflection of where she's at. Like she's been truly changed and transformed
yeah,
to the point where she's left her entire identity behind, right? And same thing with Matthew. Is Matthew's just confused 90% of the time because he doesn't understand social cues, but he's also very silent because I think he's left his identity behind as well. And he's just trying to sort out like how much of my, like, do I use any of my talent from the world for this mission? And you kind of see him later on when Judas is introduced. You kind of see him go, "Oh, well, no, like you handle the money. I don't want to deal with this." Like,
yeah.
um,
He's trying to wash his hands because
yeah,
he goes. You can see he doesn't want to have it, you know, and rightfully so, because I mean, look at all the other disciples, how they, not all of them, but especially Peter,
yeah, they all treat him like
and we
garbage.
don't know. I'm sure several of them kind of didn't want to acknowledge him as an
Yeah,
apostle because I mean, he was basically an outcast in his own society.
yeah. And we see more
Most
of that. We see more of that in season 3 or episode 3 from the other apostles.
yeah,
During the campfire scene, which we'll get to that on the next time we do an episode. But the I just think it's interesting that they're the really two silent ones, and then you have like Thomas and Rama who just showed up, so they're like, psh, we just showed up to this party, like we're not gonna say anything because we don't even know how anything works around here, so we'll just leave it be.
Oh, and I like how Matthew basically shut the door on Thomas.
Oh yeah,
He's like,
that yeah, that scene was really funny. He opens the door and Thomas is just like, "What's up?" And then Matthew's like, "Do you have any business here?" Yeah, I thought that was really funny, and yeah, he just shuts the door on him because he's like, "I don't know you." He's like, "I don't know you. I don't want to know you." So, um, those are the little scenes where I'm like, I really identify with Matthew because if somebody just came knocking on my door, it's like, I don't know you, but I know Jesus. Okay, well, I don't want to know you, so like I'd be the same way.
now, believe it or not, when I was a kid, people came knocking on your doors all the time, and you were friendly to them,
Was I?
and you didn't
Or
think
no,
through the
you were.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
you weren't necessarily scared either.
Yeah. Well,
Like,
no.
who's knocking on my door?
Yeah. Well. Now crazy things go down. So even at your own front door, so you got to be a little more careful. Um. Yeah. So I think this is a really interesting scene, and then so ultimately the episode culminates in them. They all go out into the marketplace. They buy different things for this dinner that they're having. They still don't know where it is or who it's with. Um, John takes kind of control again, and he's telling people what to go buy, giving them assignments basically. Um, and so they all go, and then it's cool because you kind of get to see the dynamic of how people just like give to the mission, you know, without them even asking or anything. Like things will just happen. Like you see Peter getting the wine right for the dinner, and he gets 2 wineskins. He asks for 2 wineskins. He buys those, and then she hands him a third, and he's like, "No, I asked for 2," and she's like, "This one's on the house." Like just like you see like these just random like interactions of them getting just stuff and being provided for, and it's really intriguing to see that as well play out. Um, we also get to see an encore of Your Woman at the Well, by the way, in this episode.
Yes.
Yeah, she pops up at the wine
And
stall.
she's so happy.
She's so happy. She
Happy.
passes Peter a message. We don't know what the message says in this scene. He just his reaction though, he's like, "Really?" He's like, "There's like,
Uh,
you know,
yeah.
there's like 13 of us or whatever, you know," and so it's really interesting, and we'll see that play out a little bit later. But ultimately, the episode culminates in them going to a Samaritan's house. Turns out the field that John and James planted, John and James planted. A lot of them start with J's, Mom. We got an issue with the apostles.
Aren't you
Like,
glad I named you Tim?
yeah, I am actually. But you see the field that John and James planted it was actually a Samaritan's field, which they're not thrilled with. They don't like Samaritans. They probably feel the strongest in the group about Samaritans
Samaritan's like, what in the world?
because they've been taught this hate through generations and generations.
Well, and suddenly I think their level of feeling they were so important, like
Yeah.
his favorite. Suddenly, wait, this is a Samaritan's field?
Yeah.
Like, they're suddenly rethinking everything they were thinking.
Oh, and the scene before this, I don't want to skip this because this is an important scene. The scene right before this, John and James go to find Jesus. They find him kind of on the side of the road. He's praying or something. And then some Samaritans pass by them on the road and insult them and start hurling rocks at them.
Oh, yes, that's right.
And John and James are ready to throw down. And Jesus is holding them back the whole time, saying, like, don't lift a finger. And even after he tells them, like, don't lift a finger, like, they still go to lunge at them. And then he's like, stop. Like, I told you, like, don't. And then after the Samaritans leave, uh, Jesus turns to them, or no, John starts going on a rant about like raining like thunder and lightning down on them and stuff.
Yeah.
and and Jesus is like, he kind of goes off on them. This is the first time you see Jesus get kind of worked up, and but it's like a righteous anger. It's like you start to kind of see a hint of the energy we get in season 5 with the flipping of the
Mhm.
tables, but
Mhm.
he gets kind of worked up, and he's like telling them like, no, I'm here to be better than that. Like, we're not gonna do that. That's not what this is about, basically. Um, and then he like kind of jabs at them, and he's like, really, like, bolts of lightning, thunder. That's what you wanted me to do them. Like, why would you want me to do that? And and then he says, and then he like puts his arms around both of them, and he goes, "Sons of Thunder." Kind of has a nice ring to it, and like this is how they get their nickname. Um, And then after that, they end up at the Samaritan's house, and that's when the reveal happens to John and James that, oh, you plowed a Samaritan's field, by the way.
Mhm.
Like after this whole run in with Samaritans, um, turns out the Samaritan is crippled. His leg is crippled, and he can't work. He can't plow. He can't do anything.
Which is a cool story behind that. Is
Really
that
cool
the
story.
next?
It's actually kind of like a reverse. So he tells the story. Sorry, I'm adjusting things. He tells the story about what happened around the campfire to Jesus.
Mhm.
And I really like how you see Jesus kind of probe it out of him too.
Mhm.
Like he's like, he says, I forgot exactly what he says, but he kind of, does a leading question into a leading question until the guy is like, I can't be dishonest with you. Like, and he just starts kind of pouring out what happened to everybody. And he he tells the story about how he was going to steal some horses with another Samaritan, and the horse like bucked him, and he ended up buried under the horse or whatever. I forgot. Did somebody kill the horse? I can't remember. Um, but basically they got attacked, and he ended up under a dead horse and his leg crushed. And then somebody came along and helped him. And it's kind of, the story is intriguing to me because it's almost like a reverse Good Samaritan story.
Yeah.
Like it's like he's the Samaritan and he's actually helped by somebody else. So it's kind of interesting how they kind of take a story that's familiar, but they
Kind of flipped
they
it.
flip it a little
Yeah,
bit.
because that's what you first think
Yeah.
when. Yeah.
So not only then this is when they're like, and then this reveal that not only is he a Samaritan, somebody they already inherently hate and dislike, but he is actually a Samaritan who did hurt people. But
Yeah.
what you see here is you see Jesus's grace in action because um he's clearly very repentant for his actions and clearly very upset about what he did to this Jew that he beat and robbed and took his horse and all this stuff. Um and and you kind of see, I think, the way that the apostles react, because like you kind of see the anger on James and John's face, but then it's also like this like sympathetic face as well. So like the acting is really good in this scene. Like you
Yeah.
can read their faces really well. What did you think about this whole arc of them plowing this field for the Samaritan and basically just seeing the heart of Christ just poured out through this whole episode?
Well, yeah, and I can't remember Jesus' words when he basically, because the Samaritan is saying, "I'm not worthy if you knew what I did," but
Oh
Jesus
yeah.
basically, I forget what
Well,
Jesus'
because the
words
guy
were.
says the guy says that for all he knows, the Jew could be dead, and
Yeah.
Jesus tells him he didn't die.
Yeah.
Like he gives him that kind of that peace of mind.
Yeah.
And
That someone came along and helped him.
yeah, and the
Yeah.
guy is like, how did you know? And Jesus just kind of says he didn't die. Like he just kind of like reassures his words. And then that's when the guy, you see it on his face, like he understands who this man is. He's like, oh wait, this is the Messiah. Like he starts to
Hmm.
understand who he is.
Yeah, and I wish I could remember Jesus' words, but he just basically reassured him that he's forgiven. That it doesn't it none of that matters whether he's worthy or not. That
Yeah.
doesn't matter. And that's why he came. In fact, that's what was the implication was this is why I came,
Yep.
you know.
Yep.
And I thought it was just a really cool moment, um, because that in that moment, anybody who's watching would say, wait, this guy, Jesus just extended love, grace, mercy,
Mhm.
compassion, all those things that we, even as believers, don't usually extend to people.
Right.
And but yet that has been extended to us through Jesus Christ because we're all sinners. Not one of us is righteous, Scripture says.
Mm.
So in this scene, there's a twofold revelation: is none of us are righteous, none of us are deserving, none of us are worthy, but because of who He is, we're all made worthy through the cross. That's what we're all given this grace, no matter what the sin is. The Lord says, here's forgiveness. All you have to do is accept me. And I think that's the great revelation of this whole, I would say, episode is anybody who is watching it. If you don't walk away with, if this guy, Jesus basically was like, Psh, you know,
Yeah.
what, what do you mean you're not worthy? You know,
Yeah.
and I think so it's that moment where so many people watching that could say, "Oh, you know what? There's hope for me," and
Yeah.
I think that's what I loved about that first episode. Um,
I think it
is
really, like I said, I think it really transparently shows like an honest portrayal of how the heart of Christ works, right? How the
yeah,
grace works. How, like, it's not just telling you. It's like, no, this is how grace functions.
yeah,
You know,
yep,
and I think it's a really cool example of that. Um, and then they kind of depart. I think Jesus forgives his sins in this scene, and then um, they kind of depart and they go to woman at the well's house, your girl. They go to her house and they're greeted by her husband, who's a real funny dude. Just like
yeah,
he's like you've brightened up this place just by like talking to like
yeah,
he's like he's like I want you to know you brighten this place up a lot. Like, and I've had to up my energy just to just so I don't feel out of place or whatever, which I think is really funny. And then he says, I only have 9 bedrooms, and one of
oh,
them
this
is
was
haunted by
great.
my dead grandmother. And then Jesus goes, ooh, I want that
Ooh,
one.
I want that one.
Which I thought was really, really good. Um, yeah. And then they wake up the next morning after spending the night there, and a scene plays out where it's back at the Samaritan's house, and his leg's been healed. And then I like the way it cuts to Jesus, his face just waking up in the morning and smiling,
Yeah,
just knowing what had happened. So yeah, I think this first episode was a really good season 2 starter. I
hmm
think
you were talking about Jesus waking up in the morning smiling
oh yeah.
because the other guy, the Samaritan, woke
Yeah.
up, realized he was healed,
Yeah. Yeah, I think
and so
it's
he
and
was
also like there's a cool little interaction with John cuz John is in the neighboring bed
like what?
and he's
Yeah,
like why
like
are you
what?
smiling? Like what's up? And uh Jesus said all he says to John is like our new friend just had a really good morning. And John's like,
Yeah,
"Really? You healed him from here? Like you don't even have to be in the same room?" Like so I thought it was a fun little revelation for the apostles as well about how
yeah.
Jesus can operate, which I think was cool. Um so yeah, what any final thoughts on this first episode before we
Not
move on to
really. It
episode
was
2,
just
Mom?
really. It was really. I think a real fun, lighthearted
Very lighthearted
episode.
episode, which I thought was
Even
good.
though it was about, it started with the John writing and them gathering because of his
Yeah,
James passing.
it
It
starts
started
off
off heavy,
really
but it
really heavy cuz you find out
throughout
that
it was light.
you
Yeah,
you you find out this is post not only post death and resurrection of Jesus, but
but
it's
James probably.
post James'
Yeah,
death too,
yeah,
um, which is Yeah, it's unfortunate. Um, but yeah, it starts off really somber and heavy, but then it's just a really lighthearted episode following that, which I think all the episodes tend to lean on the lighthearted side in some way because there's always that shimmering hope like at the end
Yeah.
of the episode. I feel like. All right, diving into episode 2 of season 2. This is one of my favorite episodes of the whole show thus far. Um,
Two?
yeah, because I really connect with Nathaniel's character, the way
Oh,
they paint him in the show.
I think you connect with all of them.
I do. I do think that I connect with all of them in some way, shape, or form. Actually, the only one I have a hard time connecting with, but I like a lot, is also introduced in this episode, Philip. I think I don't. Who also gets recast in season 3, by the way. They have a really hard time like holding their original cast for the show, but um, the Philip is introduced, and in turn Nathaniel, because if you are familiar with the Gospels, I think especially in Luke, you find out that Philip is the one who kind of brings Nathaniel in,
Oh, yeah.
and
Yes.
introduces him to Jesus. So, and it plays out very similar to the scriptures, which I always kind of connected with Nathaniel's story in the scriptures too, because I think, um, well, just kind of playing out. So the episode starts out, they're kind of camping in the wilderness, and Philip just kind of pops up in the camp. He was one of John's followers, and he pops up and he's like, everyone's kind of really guarded. They're like, who is this guy? And then Andrew shows up and he's like, he lets them know real quick who he is. And Philip's just got this kind of like, you can tell he's kind of inherited a lot of John's personality, like John the Baptist's personality. You know, he's kind of the hippie of the group almost. You know, he's very down to the bandana even actually.
Yeah.
Now that I'm thinking about it, like he's kind of that like it's all love, it's
Free
all good,
spirit.
man. Like, we're one with nature,
Free
like we're
spirit. Yeah.
chilling. He's kind of got that energy about him. Um which makes sense because John the Baptist in a weird way is kind of a hippie. Um
But he's a
he's a
hardcore.
hardcore hippie though.
Wow. Hellfire and
um
brimstone all
it's
the
it's
way.
kind of like if it's literally like if John the Baptist, you just stripped all the hellfire and brimstone away from John the Baptist, that's who you'd have. um so yeah, Philip is an interesting guy. He's the first one that comes along as well and kind of takes Matthew under his wing and treats him with respect and kindness.
Yes, he does.
And you see that throughout this episode, which I think is really cool. Um, he kind of teaches Matthew how to kind of subtly stand up for himself without being a jerk, and like how he kind of starts to teach him how to understand, the subtlety of conversation as well. And because Matthew explains to him, like, everybody's always speaking in riddles and abstract ideas. And he's like, why can't they just put it in simple terms, basically, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and you really start to feel for Matthew in this episode because you start to understand where he's coming from. But him having somebody like Philip to come in and be like, I get it. Like, and to take him under his wing. And like everyone's kind of making fun of Matthew when Philip's introduced because he comes back after looking for wood, but he found wood, but it's kind of by a river, and so it's wet. And Peter's kind of making fun of him and jabbing at him for it. And then Philip's like, "Oh, well, I can teach. I'm the guy who dries wood, so that works out great." And and Peter just kind of looks at him like, "Who's this guy?" Like so what do you think of Philip first off, and what do you think of his relationship with the other apostles just kind of coming in and kind of subtly infiltrating and
I like Philip.
breaking all of the
Yeah.
barriers down between the other apostles, because that's what he kind of comes in and does, is he kind
Well,
of this
in
sledgehammer.
Jesus, well, in Jesus, alludes to his seasoning
Mm-hmm.
because he's been ministering with John, that he's the most seasoned
Yeah.
of 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 the apostles, of the disciples. And so it was definitely a needed role
Mm.
to gel all the characters together, all the apostles together. So I think they played off of that well, him coming in to the group from the outside, seeing things now that they've been walking together for a while. He's seeing it as an outsider, and he sees probably all the looks, all the sarcasm, because there is sarcasm.
Yeah.
Um, and of course you're dealing with Peter, who is very prideful. Um, a lot of them are. A lot of them deal with pride issues, and and I believe part of the reason he went through the denial is it humbled him.
Mm.
You know, and so we see that happen throughout this. So who knows? We talk. We can say, was it fate? Was it part of the building of a disciple for that to take place? And so it was allowed to happen for a reason. So we see Philip playing a role that a Peter or someone like that couldn't.
Yeah.
So it needed to be somebody from the outside. I mean, we see that today in life, that someone from the outside comes into a close knit group, and can see the dysfunction inside of it, and that's what Philip did. He almost was like a counselor, almost like a mentor to these guys that needed someone to speak truth and boldly, but have a lightheartedness about him, and a kind of a chill,
Yeah.
you know, chill nature. So I like Philip. I think Philip and Andrew probably are my. Oh, I don't know.
It
Can I
makes
have a
makes
favorite?
makes sense because they're definitely I'd say they're portrayed as the meekest, like the
Yeah,
softest. Like they're
they're probably my favorite
yeah.
characters of all of them. I mean, I
Mm.
love John because of the reason. I mean, I love his book. I've always been prone to his gospel, and I love that he just got what the love of Jesus meant. I
Yeah.
love that about John. But Andrew and Philip, the way they're portrayed in this really had me to fall in love with their character.
Yeah.
You
Uh,
know,
um. So Philip coming in, like I said earlier, Philip coming in kind of naturally. You have to assume Nathaniel's going to come in soon, and he does. In this episode, they start to travel towards a place. Do you remember where they were traveling, Mom?
I cannot remember.
Uh, the,
Should have watched it tonight.
they were they're traveling towards a town with
I
people.
have a
Um,
menopause brain.
um, that's okay. We won't hold it against you. Um, and all the important thing is Nathaniel is homed there, and we're introduced to Nathaniel in kind of an earlier scene, where we find out he's an architect, and he just wants to build temples for the Lord. Um, that's his heart. And unfortunately, a job goes wrong, and he kind of oversteps his bounds in the name of perfection, and somebody gets hurt.
Mm.
And so he gets fired, and um, he goes out into like kind of a wilderness area and sits under a fig tree. And again, we see this perfect, like, it's fictionalization, but it's just elaborating and taking liberty based on what we already know about the scripture. Because scripture
Mhm.
says, what we know about Nathaniel from scripture is when he's recruited by Jesus, Jesus says to him, I saw you under the fig tree.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really go into much more detail than that. Well, in this, he's there because he lost his job, and he's crying out to the Lord. He burns the plans for the temple as a sacrifice, and he's begging the Lord, like, to reveal his face to him and to talk to him, and he perceives it as the Lord being silent. And after being there from, you assume, early afternoon to late evening, he gives up and he goes to a bar and he starts drinking. And then we catch up with him again after when Philip is on the road with the apostles on the way to this town, that he asked Jesus, "Can I go see an old friend?" And Jesus says, "Yeah, we have to make time for friends and family." And so Philip goes to talk to him, and he finds him drunk in his house. And he basically says to Nathaniel, "Come and see." And so Nathaniel reluctantly goes with Philip to meet Jesus, and Jesus says, what we know from the Bible, basically directly quoted from the Bible. He has this really intimate moment with Nathaniel where their eyes lock, and Jesus says, "I did not turn my face from you in your time of need. I saw you under the fig tree." And Nathaniel's acting here is just so good. Like, just looking into his eyes and this kind of like half welling up, tearful, but joyful face. Like, oh, it's so good. All of the actors are so good. And all Nathaniel says to him is "You're the Messiah." Like, he just knows. And then Jesus is like, "All I said to you is I saw you under a fig tree and you believe me?" Like, I love just like the subtle humor of Jesus. Like, the way they like play it up, I think is really good. What do you think of this whole arc? I connect to it so much because I've been the guy who's tried to turn to the bottle when I felt like God wasn't answering me. And so I connect to it on so many levels.
One of the things that really stood out to me is because in the scripture we hear him, and he introduces, it's Andrew, right? It's Andrew, correct? That went and found him?
No,
Or
Philip
Philip.
did.
Yeah, so Philip introduces him to Jesus.
Yeah.
And Jesus' response was, "Yes, this is Nathaniel. I know who he is, and in whom there is no
Yeah.
guile."
Yeah.
And that you could see the shock
Yeah.
on Nathaniel's face. Like, how does he know this?
Yeah.
How does he know this? And so I think it's that recognition that God sees our the best things about us,
Mm-hmm.
and our heart and the motives of our heart, but he also sees our struggles and the things that even in his desperate moment, Nathaniel's desperate moments, we see that his heart and his motive is still correct, it's still pure.
Yeah.
Because Jesus made that comment, "In whom there is, not was, but is no guile." So
And that they
even
play
in the wrestling
Yeah.
nature of his situation, basically Jesus is saying there's no guile in you.
And that plays into his character. They play that up in his character throughout the show, is the honesty aspect of him, like the over honesty that he has, like the lack of guile, like the just complete honesty, no matter what people think about him.
Very candid.
He's just gonna say exactly what's on his mind.
Just very candid. Yeah, so they introduce him well. I think they did a good job at introducing him.
Yeah. Cool.
And I think he is a phenomenal actor.
Oh yeah, he definitely. It's so weird because like Nathaniel doesn't get a lot of play throughout the show, but he's probably one of the best actors on the show.
Yeah, he's
like
just
this one scene, I think, blows everything out of the water that anybody else has done on the show. Honestly, like
his natural responses look very natural. They look really real. They look very authentic. Almost like he had never heard those lines, even though he probably went over them over and over and over them when they were recording. It was like the first time he was hearing those words.
Yeah.
Coming from the mouth of Jesus.
He had a very authentic way about the way he reacted, and I think it was really good. Those are the most notable things that happen in the episode to me. I'm sorry if I'm skipping anything or not really able to remember. trying to think if anything else like major happened in that episode. I just think that Nathaniel's story
I
arc.
think those were the main things.
Yeah, I think yeah, I just think that Nathaniel's story arc is just so good. And like really you just have the
Sure.
tension between like really what's building in this episode is the drama, but with the way that they introduce Nathaniel, it's just so good to me that I think that's why it's one of my favorite episodes, is because I think Nathaniel's introduction is just so good. So, all right, well, that's really all I have to say about
That's a wrap.
that's really all I have to say about these first 2 episodes of season 2. We'll continue at this clip of doing 2 episodes at a time with another with like a movie or something in between each one, so we don't just
Yeah.
blow through it. At this pace, we'll probably be ready for season 6 when it comes out in November. I would guess.
Probably.
So.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for joining us. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, be sure to hit the like button. Maybe drop us a sub so you know when the new ones go up. And drop a comment. Let us know if there's any movies or shows or anything that you want us to go over. Like, I even wouldn't be opposed to like listening through albums and stuff and breaking them down. I think that'd be cool too. So any pop culture topic that you can think of that you think would be interesting to break down from a biblical perspective, let us know in the comments and we'll try our best to get to it. Yeah. All things are good. Thank you for joining us.
Yes.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Or day or whatever.
Or day or whatever.
Whenever you're watching this. Be blessed. Be blessed. If you're in the
Blessed?
King James version. All right. Goodbye.